Again, it's very confusing and it's a huge waste of time for everyone. Other businesses, they use price tags for all their products. So they have to go through every single product in the store with a sticker gun and change things to no tax. But then guess what? In 2 months, we have to reverse all this. Well, it's definitely a political gimmick because food already is not taxed.
For Rebel News here in Cobourg, Ontario, I'm Tamara Ugolini, and I'm joined here by store owner TNS, the Natural Store, Alan Lapp, who has been trying to make sense of the disastrous rollout of this exemption implemented by the Justin Trudeau Liberals just ahead of the holiday season. Prepared foods and snacks, restaurants, takeout, delivery, kids' clothes and toys, diapers, morning coffees, beer, wine, cider. They're tax-free for 2 months starting today, Trudeau posted on December the 14th. Now, first thing, Monday morning, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland resigned, and she seemed to insinuate that this GST holiday was just a political gimmick.
Because it is this last-minute gimmicky. I'm not even sure it's a great gimmick because, most people buy their Christmas trees before December 14th.
As a small business on the ground left trying to implement this, what do you make of all of it?
Well, it's definitely a political gimmick because food already is not taxed. So the only thing that people are getting tax break on are snacks and alcohol, essentially.
What are you seeing so far in terms of the customer or consumer behavior around all of this?
Well, everyone's shopping the same as they were before this whole thing started. No one's asked about the exemption. No one has complained about the fact that they're paying tax. So this is all, again, just a political gimmick to get votes and supports for the Liberals.
As a small business owner who's been left trying to make sense of what is and isn't exempt and implement, even things like changing your point of sale system to reflect what is and isn't exempt, what has that meant for you?
Well, there's over 1,200 products that we've had to change, and that's all done by me, very time consuming. Every product has to be manually changed in the database. There's no automatic button you can press. And just like me, a lot of other small business owners, they have to do these manual types of changes. Other businesses, they use price tags for all their products. So they have to go through every single product in the store with a sticker gun and change things to no tax. But then guess what? In 2 months, we have to reverse all this. We have a mixture of organic food, gluten-free food, low sugar products. Everything we carry is curated by us to have clean ingredients.
Can you give us some examples of what is and is not exempt?
Sure, Tamara. So, for example, it says some chips. So what chips are exempt, what chips aren't exempt? Also under snacks, it talks about bars, and bars with protein are exempt, but all bars have protein in it, so it's really confusing to know what's exempt and what's not. This one would be exempt because there's added protein to it, but even other bars like the Cliff bars, it shows a protein content in the macronutrients, so therefore that should be exempt too. It also talks about snacks. Snacks is a broad category. It says something about sugar and sugar alternatives, but everything has sugar in it. That's a snack, essentially. Even sugar alternatives like coconut sugar or things that come from coconut, they have sugar in it. So again, it's very confusing and it's a huge waste of time for everyone. Most food doesn't have tax anyways. So therefore, I'm not sure who this is trying to help.
Something like flour even. Flour's already exempt.
Flour's already exempt.
And yet you can get, would the gluten-free flour mixtures be exempt or not?
They're also exempt because we didn't pay tax on them when we order them, so they don't have tax on them already. But I know there's other items that, like all the gluten-free products that aren't just flour, some of those have tax on it. Even cacao, which is unroasted chocolate, but even with a cacao, I believe the nibs have tax, but the cacao, which is basically just chocolate, doesn't. And both of those you can use in baking. So again, very confusing. The dandies, those for sure have tax on them. Marshmallows, which is made out of, these ones are vegan ones. So they're made out of cassava syrup, water, and soy protein. right? So I believe it's because there's a protein in it that's considered a supplement and it has tax, but I mean, it's a marshmallow. Half our store is supplements, half our store is food. All the supplements have tax, but a lot of the supplements are basically herbs and foods in a capsule, right? So those shouldn't have tax to begin with, but they do have tax, so.
You look as confused as we are.
Yeah. I know for sure the alcohol has tax, and we have a small section of organic wines and beers, and that's supposed to be removed, but other things don't have it, so yeah, very confusing.
The budgetary officers coined this at costing anywhere from 1.6 to 2.7 billion, yes, with a B, billion dollars, depending on whether or not certain provinces or territories try to get compensation for the lack of tax revenue because of the exemption. As you've mentioned, this is a mere 2 months. Is this all really worth it in the end?
No, I don't think so, because shoppers aren't really going to change their spending habits. They're just going to have less money because of all the high taxes that we're paying in other areas. So rather than put the burden of savings on the businesses, it should be a tax credit that people submit at the end of the year, or why not just charge less tax or abolish the tax on carbon.
This tax exemption will be implemented for 2 months, and then 6 weeks later, so it ends on February the 15th. 6 weeks later, on April the 1st, the next carbon tax hike comes into play, where carbon will go up to $100 per ton, up from the $85 that it currently is. What kind of impact on small businesses does this 2-month exemption relief have versus something more long-term, like a carbon tax relief? What kind of impact would that have on you?
Right, that's a great question. The carbon tax has a huge effect on the price of all foods, because the carbon tax has to do with fuel costs, and the fuel is what transport trucks use to bring the products across Canada, or from even farther places than that. So all those input costs, the price of fuel, the price of labor, that drives up the cost of everything for everyone. So really the tax burden is what needs to be addressed.
And you're a small business. You've just come out of the COVID hysteria, whether it be lockdowns or implementing mandates or putting up things even like a sanitation station at the front door of your business. The cost of living has skyrocketed. The cost of products has skyrocketed. The economy is still reeling from the devastating effect of lockdowns and these global shutdowns that we saw happen. What's your message to the Trudeau Liberals in wake of all of these disastrous policies?
They should start listening to the people of Canada. That want the economics of the situation addressed. People want lower taxes. They don't want to spend a lot of money on essentials. And again, the price of fuel and the carbon tax is going to keep driving that up. We started seeing that at the beginning of COVID, and it hasn't changed since then.
At the end of it, February 15th, it says to keep your records and remit and report your regular GST, HST as usual. So this will not only impact this fiscal year, but next year's as well. So it looks like the end still isn't near in terms of how you coordinate and orchestrate all of these changes. As February 15th comes, what's your last words on that?
Well, I mean, it's an incredible waste of time. It's a misguided policy. And if the government really wanted to help people, they would approach this a different way.
If you'd like an alternative to a conventional grocer and get some healthy, wholesome alternatives, come on down to TNS in Cobourg. And there we have Alan Lapp and his take on this disastrous GST exemption process and how something like a carbon tax exemption, or maybe just getting rid of it, axing the tax altogether, how that would actually affect Canadians reeling with the crisis faced on the ground. Thanks again, Alan, for joining me. For Rebel News, I'm Tamara Ugolini. The Liberal Party of Canada, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, is a disaster. If you agree, head on over to trudeaumustresign.com. At that website, you can sign our petition, and you can also sign up so that you never miss a report on this beat. That's trudeaumustresign.com.